Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Thursday Morning Live, and welcome to the show. Hey, if you are, if this is your first time, I'm glad that you're here this morning. You're going to be in for a treat. I have a great guest. We'll talk about him in a minute. But Thursday Morning Live, every week we show up here and we talk about local markets, talk about what's going on in Chicago. I really focus in on the Chicago market, try to have somebody from the local area on, which we do this morning. So if you know anybody who'd be a great guest, an entrepreneur, a business owner, a restaurant owner, somebody who would have would get some excitement off of being on this show in the morning on Thursday, let me know. Reach out to me or throw your hat in the ring. This show is brought to you by My Core Intentions. I like to remind you that we have coming up our virtual annual multifamily summit. So that is October 20th through the 22nd. It's a 3-day virtual event. This year I have, close to 30 speakers. I'm going to have 20 on the main stage. We have some panels, some breakout rooms, a lot of networking going on. We're going to play cash flow. And if you've ever played cash flow virtually or haven't ever played cash flow virtually, it is an event that you definitely want to get your arms around because Michael Zhao, who moderates that, I've been in rooms where he's done it with 35, 50 people, and it's just amazing how he moderates it and how the game works. But it's a lot of fun, and we have some great laughter around it. So you'll want to join for that. But go to multifamily22.com, get registered for that event. I know that if you are new to the multifamily space, or if you are trying to figure out real estate investing from the residential or small multifamily, getting into large apartment complexes, you're not going to want to miss this event. The speakers alone, over thousands and thousands of units traded in the last few years. There's going to be a lot to learn and a lot to grasp. So, hey, my guest this morning, Bill Himmelstein. He's the founder and CEO of Tenant Advisory Group here in Chicago. We're going to get into markets. We're going to get into office space. We're going to talk a lot about commercial real estate. Let me bring Bill in. Hey, Bill, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing great, and you pronounced my name perfectly. That is a rarity, even within my own family. So well done. Thank you.
I practiced. I asked you, and I practiced. That's how we get that done. Hey, I've been looking forward to connecting with you again. We had a great conversation the last time we connected. I think Chad Coe connected us, didn't he?
It was, Chad Coe is a mutual connection of ours. It was Larry Kaufman.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I had Larry on a month or so ago, and he did connect us, which I like Larry. He's a great guy. So, Bill, listen, one thing I always do when I start my show in the morning is I ask my guests, in one word, what best describes you personally and professionally?
Oh boy. I think if you ask my wife, it might be chump. Or no, I'm kidding.
Oh, that's great. Nobody ever said that word.
No, hopefully she likes me more than that. But honestly, I would like to think that the word is fun. I really enjoy having fun. I recently went through an exercise with my therapist trying to identify my core values. And interestingly enough, the one that rose to the top, my number one core value, was fun. And so I hope to bring that to both my personal and professional life. And, I try to host events professionally where people will have a great time, but also have it be very productive. So that's a big part of who I am and my lifestyles. I like to have fun, and I want to bring that to wherever I am, whether I'm working, playing, with my kids, whatever it is. So hopefully it's fun. That's the word I think I'd like to be described as.
That's pretty great. I'm 300 episodes deep in a couple of different podcasts and shows like this, and not to talk about all the lives or the random thoughts I go live and do, but nobody has ever said fun. And there's been a few words, and one of these days I'm going to get somebody just to go through all my content, take those words, write a little something about each one of the guests. And so I think
I'm curious, Mike, what are some words you get frequently?
Yeah, resilience, tenacity, diligent, focused, the same old kind of buzzwords and things like that. So,
and those are good. Those are all good words.
They're all great words. They're all great words. So, I mean, if somebody asked me that question, I'd have to say tenacious, which is a funny story, right? Because I was probably selling residential real estate 3 years in the business. And I walk in a client's house and he goes, "Man, Morawski, you are the most tenacious person I know." And at the time, I didn't know what the word meant, right? So I very graciously, I go, "Thank you. I appreciate that." I run right home, grab the dictionary, and I go, "Oh, that is me." So, kind of funny.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
So,
but
Bill,
you do, in our business, in real estate, you do have to be tenacious, persistent. Those words that you said, I think describe probably a lot of the people that you've had on the show.
Yeah. Well, and I think you bring up a good point. And that is that, here we are, we just came out of this bull run market, right? For the last 30 months, 36 months. And here we are, we're going to be in this bear market for a period of time. And I think that when you watch that little video clip I sent you this morning, you're going to call me back and go, "God, you were right." So, but we're going to go into this little bit of a correctional market. And, I think that the people who were order takers, who could sit there on the phone and ring and they'd be able to go do a deal, sell a house, take a listing, put a listing on the market and it'd sell like that. Now they realize they're going to have to go to work.
Right.
And, I think it'll weed out the industry again. It's part of that.
Always does, Mike. And, to me, I don't mind a correction because it bodes well for people like you and I that are always working hard, that are always trying to plow forward regardless of what's going on in the market. But it also presents opportunities.
Yeah.
The Japanese are the best at seeing opportunities in challenges. And I think that there's a lot of the successful people in real estate take that similar approach where when there's difficulties, it's a great opportunity to keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Hey, so you mentioned a couple of things, before the show, and now that, I kind of want to dive into a little bit, but before we get there, let's talk about your background a little bit, what your history is and how you got to doing what you're doing today. Tell the listeners about that.
Yeah, geez. So how far back do we start? I mean, when I was a real young child, my father would take me to an apartment building that he owned, and we'd empty the laundry machines of the quarters. And I'd have this bag of quarters, and I'd be like, "Dad, we're rich. What are we going to buy? How are we going to spend this money?" He says, "Bill, come with me. I'm going to show you." Well, actually, he would say, "Billy, come with me." And we'd go to the bank. And he deposited it, and he said, "Billy, the bank's going to pay us just to hold on to our money. And guess what? After they've paid us, they're going to pay us on top of that." So he teaches me about compounding interest. And then I was asking about the properties. He said, "Billy, let's say this property costs $1 million. I only had to put down $200,000. And I said, "Well, I don't understand." He teaches me about leverage. And he's saying, "And by the way, Billy, I've got a mortgage payment and certain expenses on this property, like taxes. But guess what? All of my tenants pay for that for me. All my renters are paying my mortgage. They're paying my expenses. They're paying my taxes. And then I got a little bit left over. You know what I'm going to do with that?" And I said, "I don't know. What are we going to buy?" He said, "No, we're going to buy another building." And so, it really all started from an early age with my father teaching me about leverage and investing and saving. Then my freshman year of high school, I was a bank teller. And I remember most people would come in every other Friday with their paychecks from their hourly jobs that they had, and they'd deposit $250, $320, real small amounts. But there was this one woman who would come in on a irregular basis, but relatively regularly, and she would deposit $28,000, $46,000, $33,000, just constantly random numbers, but huge amounts. She had one of the biggest balances of anybody in the bank, any other customers. And I finally said to her, ma'am, I don't mean to pry, but could you tell me what you do for a living? She tells me she's a real estate broker. And I said, I want to be that woman when I grow up. I want to be just like her, with a huge bank balance, depositing massive checks all the time. So fast forward to senior year in college, and onto campus comes a tenant rep firm from Chicago. They come to my campus at Washington University in St. Louis, and they're telling me about, you're going to be working with owners, CEOs, presidents of companies. You're going to be negotiating one of their second largest expenses, real estate. They said, you're going to be earning large commissions. And oh, by the way, we don't care when you're coming or going. We just want you to do the job. We're going to judge you for how well you deliver. And I thought this all sounded really exciting to me. And then they planted the hook, and they said, just so you know, pretty much everybody fails at this job. And that you can't tell some young, stupid kid that you're going to fail. And that's what they want. They want the bullheaded kids that are going to charge through adversity, that are going to plow forward in the difficult times and just keep plugging away, being persistent, like one of the words you get a lot of times on your show, by being tenacious and doing all those things. And so for me, I thought that commercial real estate would be a great way as a broker to build relationships with the right people, to earn a good living, so I could take that additional income and invest it into passive income generating assets, which for me had been real estate as well. So it kind of, it all led up to a culmination. And, looking back on it, I don't think I would change anything. I love what I do. I enjoy it. And I love the investing side as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's kind of funny here because you come from a family that you had real estate in your roots, and look what you've achieved and where you're at today as a result of that. I come from a family, I didn't have any entrepreneurial spirit, no real estate in my roots. But here's what I remember, sitting on the side of a swimming pool at probably 8 years old. We're on vacation at this resort. And I remember asking my dad, how come there were so many rooms, And my dad, in his infinite wisdom, says, oh, people come here, they stay here, just like we're doing on vacation, and they pay the owner money. And I knew right at that instant that I wanted to be the owner. Right.
Awesome.
And it was years later before I connected the dots and went into real estate. But, my dad always said food, shelter, or clothing if you ever go into business for yourself. So interesting.
I love it. Oh, that's a great story, Mike. I love that.
Yeah. So, hey, listen, you mentioned therapy. Bill, did you mean coaching or therapy?
No, I mean actual mental therapy. There's a period last year where, I had broken my leg, and it required surgery, and I was bedridden for a short period. My business was kind of in the doldrums. COVID had really affected the office tenants in the market. And I was getting calls from both of my young son's teachers. And so the three main ways I identified myself as a physically active person, I was immobilized, and I was struggling with that. One of the ways I identify myself is as a business owner, an entrepreneur. that was struggling, although to no fault of my own. And identify myself as being a parent. And I felt like I was struggling with that. So all these factors were really had me down in the dumps. I don't necessarily want to say I was depressed, because I'm generally a very happy, positive, glasses half full type of person. But I was as down as I've ever been. Interestingly enough, in retrospect, my wife said, I didn't know you were upset, that upset about anything, because I wasn't trying to bring my sadness to others. I like to bring my positivity. I like to uplift people, bring the fun, right? That's what I like to bring to people I'm around. And so I was really just down on myself. And I knew I needed to talk to somebody that could help me through that. And to me, there's absolutely no shame in seeking mental health therapy. I mean, it's so beneficial, no matter where you are on the spectrum of happiness, sadness, anything. It's such a positive thing to do. I'm a huge proponent, and it helped tremendously. That's when we went through my core values and really tried to understand who am I and how should I be identifying myself? Yes, things like what you do for your profession, your family life, these are all parts of your identity. But who you are as a person does not have to be defined by any one thing. And so going through that experience of really uncovering my core values and who I am as a person and how I define myself really helped swing me out of the doldrums and get back to that positive mindset that, the grass is always greener where you water it. And so that, to me, mental health is just about watering your own grass.
Wow. You know what? I don't know that I ever heard that. You always hear grass is always greener on the other side, but that's awesome. I love that. And you know what? I think that just goes to the point that all of us need somebody to lean into, somebody to talk to, somebody to work through things with, whether that be a close friend, a therapist, some type of 12-step program, or, a coach, right? Somebody that you can confide in, walk with, somebody who knows you intimately, right? Or gets to know you intimately. So good for you. I think
there's no shame in self-improvement at all. I mean, I think it's anybody that is taking coaching, is getting therapy, whatever it is, reading self-help books. I commend those people, because they're just trying to better themselves and be better people. And I knew I needed to be, for me to be at the top of my game, I had to feel good about myself inside. I had to be able to look at myself in the mirror and say, I respect that person and I like that person. Yeah. And I was just feeling really down about myself. And really the therapist that work was just, it was transformative, maybe a little strong of a word, but it was incredibly helpful and it was powerful. And I was so grateful I did that.
Yeah. Awesome. Good for you. Hats off to you for that. You also, you mentioned other people's money, right? OPM. And I'm a proponent of that, because I believe that that's how wealth gets created, especially when you're in the space that you're in or I'm in, where we have tenants that live in properties and they pay the bills, right? Talk about, your business, your tenant advisory business a little bit, how that all plays together.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Mike. And, Tenant Advisory Group doesn't have investments, nor does it come up with investment opportunities. Tenant Advisory Group is purely a brokerage platform for what I call end users of real estate. So the tenants, the buyers, and the sellers. And we represent tenants, buyers, and sellers all over the country in three main asset classes: office space, industrial space, and medical space. Mm-hmm. So we work with business owners to help them find the right space for their business and either negotiate the business terms of the lease or the business terms of an acquisition or disposition. And, through that, work, typically, I would say in non-COVID years, when everyone's ordered to leave the office, typically we're able to generate additional income that goes above and beyond what I need to support the business or my family. And so I was telling somebody recently, Mike, it's fun to get a commission, right? It's nice to get a commission check. But I know that if I don't invest that money, one of two things is going to happen with the money. It's either going to be spent on tenant advisory group, or it's going to be spent on the Himmelstein family. And I'm fine with either one of those. But what really gets me excited, Mike, is when someone like you brings me an opportunity like you have right now in Tampa, where the numbers make sense. You've got positive cash flow. You've got value-added opportunities. You're buying down debt on the note. And for all intents and purposes, you're probably going to get a lot of appreciation on the property as well, especially because you're doing those value add. When I make an investment into an opportunity like that, that's when I get really excited. Because now I know I'm generating passive income. I'm adding to my monthly passive income that's coming in. And I know that at some point in the future, when you've got great operators like yourself and the team you've put together, that these people are going to be able to deliver on their promises and on their pro forma. They're going to value add on the property. They're going to be buying down the debt. You're probably going to get a bunch of appreciation. And then all of a sudden in 5 years, you sell the property. Or no, even before that, you might, after you've gone through all the rehabbing, you've increased your rental rates, you've increased the NOI. Now you've increased the value of the property so you can refinance. And then you put a bunch of money back into the investors' pockets, yet they're still cash flowing at the same rate they were before on their initial amount of money, yet they might have 50% of it back in their pocket.
Yeah, right.
Like that to me is a type of stuff that really gets me excited. In addition to, I love beating up landlords and really helping out tenants. I feel like I'm Peter Pan trying to rob from the rich and give to the poor. Now, given none of my clients are poor by any means, but they all support team members, right? They've got 50 to 500 employees. I feel like when I can save a client like that, a couple $1 million a year, I'm really helping out that entire employee base, because maybe now people can get raises. They can hire more people. They can grow their business because I've helped them save money on their real estate. So don't get me wrong. I love my brokerage capacity and really helping these businesses get the right space that supports their attraction and retention of top talent and supports their culture, which ultimately supports the growth of their business. I love doing that. I've been doing it for 22 years and I'm nowhere near at the end of my road here. But honestly, making an investment in something like you have going on in Tampa, that to me is really exciting, because now you got money working for you. You can sleep at night, but the money's still working. People are still paying rent. And that to me is an exciting project that you've got going on. And that's what I enjoy doing.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that too. Hey, so we know, and we mentioned it a few minutes ago, that we're going into this softening of the market. The market's changing. Interest rates are up. Inflation is up. I talked to somebody, they said, I have $100,000 in the bank making 1%. That's the highest interest rate I could find. I said, you're actually losing 8%. I said, inflation's at 9%. There's a difference there, right? So it becomes some education for people. But here's the interesting thing. We know multifamily is going to be a safe, secure bet over the next few years. It'll be a great hedge against inflation. You can get in, you can protect your principal, you can get a great return. But let's talk about office for a minute, because I heard this comment about a year ago, and I want to know where it's at now. I heard that the absorption rate, this is a year ago, that there was a 5-year absorption rate for all the vacant office in the city of Chicago. Is that a true or not statement?
Well, so Mike, I haven't heard it listed in terms like that, but given my experience over the past 22 years, I would say that's probably pretty accurate. And frankly, I believe that as some of the larger leases turn over this year and in the next few years, generally what we're seeing is even businesses that have their team members coming in 3-4 days a week. And I believe that 5 days a week back in the office is probably a thing of the past for most businesses, but 3-4 days a week will soon become the norm and what we're going to see going forward. These businesses that have 200,000 square feet, leases signed pre-pandemic, they're going to be renewing or taking new space. Instead of 200,000 square feet, maybe they only need 150,000, and so in general, companies are realizing that with people coming in fewer days a week than pre-pandemic levels, that you don't have to give everybody their dedicated office or a dedicated cube. You can kind of have a concept called hoteling, where you kind of show up and you plug your laptop into a workstation or an office or whatever you can find. But and this is a good thing for businesses, I believe, to save a little money on their occupancy costs. But I do believe that we probably do have several years worth of inventory. Typically what happens with developers is, a recession or some event hits and there's all these projects that are already underway, but new projects stop. So there aren't going to be new developments in general going on for the next several years. And as we move forward, we will see businesses who correct their size. People will start to grow again. That's kind of the natural progression of capitalism, is growth. There are kinks that happen, right? Recessions, pullbacks, things like that. And if we're not in one now, we will be soon. The Fed will do everything in their power to make sure we get into a recession. But I do think we've got a tremendous amount of inventory, which bodes wonderfully well for the tenants, the people that are creating jobs, right? The business owners, the entrepreneurs. And because they need to spend less money on their rent, they can spend more money on their talent. They can spend more money on their marketing, and they can spend more money essentially on growth activities, which in turn will drive a need for more office space. I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, everybody was saying, fire sale, get rid of it. We don't need space, sublease, buyout, terminate, walk away even. I mean, there was a lot of different things going on to get rid of space. But the last 9 months to a year, I have vastly more clients saying, we want to get back into the office. We need more space. We're growing. And so there's those kind of converging factors that as the leases that were signed pre-pandemic begin to roll, we will start to see, I think, positive net absorption, probably not until, it could be 18 months to 2 years from now. But there is plenty. The downtown office vacancy is 20% in Chicago, and the suburban land is pushing 30%. So there's a lot of space to be filled in the market, which isn't going to happen for quite some time.
Wow, that's interesting. So you're seeing that they're slowly coming back to the office, not going to go back full time, that there's still going to be a lot of remote things going on, and these people that these big leases aren't going to need as much space anymore. How about the solo guys? The 1 or 2 people offices, have they gone back to the office, or are they still at home?
Yeah, that's a great question. And while I don't typically pay a whole lot of attention to those folks, what they're doing is filling up. They are coming back, but they're coming back to shared spaces, co-working, just like they were before. The big difference with co-working now is that some larger companies who are trying to figure out, and when I say larger, I mean 100 employees on up.
Yeah,
they're trying to figure out what their needs are. They're trying to figure out, they all want their people to come back. There are so many things that you miss out, that you, as meaning an organization, misses out on by having a remote workforce. And the CEOs and the leaders, they know this. They know you're missing out on huge culture, benefits. You're missing out on mentorship opportunities. You're missing out on chance encounters and quick conversations to have with people nearby. you're missing out on, just educating your younger workforce and training them up. A lot of things that you're missing out on. But what these larger companies are starting to do is say, while we're figuring it out, let's just do co-working space, because we can do a short-term commitment. It's really flexible in terms of adding and subtracting space within that co-working facility. And so, a lot of people got burned signing long-term leases right before the pandemic. And now they're just left holding the bag, paying rent for space that's not being utilized.
Yeah.
I think a big change will occur, Mike, when we do kind of get into this recession a little bit further. Companies start to pull back on their hiring or start laying off people. And we've certainly seen that in the crypto industry, but a lot of tech has started to lay off people. Groupon laid off, I think, 1,600 people. I mean, there's a lot of examples of companies that are starting to let go of folks. And I think as less jobs are available for every worker, I think those workers are going to value their jobs more than they do now. Meaning when the employer says, we want you to come in 3 days a week, they're not going to quit and take the job where they can work fully remote. Working remotely has been largely driven by the employee. And when the leverage comes back to the employer, which I think will be within the next 9 months to a year, honestly, you'll start to see those employers pulling their people back in to the office and mandating 3 days a week, probably close to, it's going to be somewhere between 3 and 4 days a week is going to become the norm in the future. I think we're really only about a year away from that.
Yeah. So, it's funny, things always cycle, they shift, they change, and history tends to repeat itself. So bell bottoms are back.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Hey, let's shift it up a little bit. I always like to ask 3 questions before we end the show. But the first one is, what's the best book you've ever read?
Secret of Shelter Island. I can't remember the author, but The Secret of Shelter Island talks about your mindset and, not just the glass is half full, but, it's about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And it's really talking about how to bring a positive attitude, how to, open your mind to learning and taking on new challenges, and really just having a positive attitude, bringing positivity and fun to your life and others around you. And it's really been, when I was younger, my dad always talked about the big A, attitude, and how that can really change your experience. We read this book to my 9 and 6-year-old called What Would Danny Do? And it's sort of like a choose your own adventure. Things happen and you get to choose. Does Danny react positively with a growth mindset, or does he react negatively with a fixed mindset? And his day goes according to your choices. And we're just trying to instill in them that your day and what happens is entirely up to you. You have the power to choose your response. You have the power to choose how you react and how you behave and what your attitude is. And that's a really powerful tool to control really the happiness and the enjoyment that you get out of life.
Yeah, it's awesome. Your mindset is so critically important. You're right. Hey, what's the best restaurant in Chicago?
We are so blessed to live in this world-class city because the culinary scene is so spectacular. But I got to go with an old school restaurant that every year for my birthday, and if I can convince my wife to go there on our anniversary, Joe's Steak and Seafood. In my mind, their Alaskan king crab legs is probably the best thing I ever put in my mouth. The sad thing is that they are ungodly expensive.
Yeah.
So I don't love that part, but Joe's Steak and Seafood, people will go there, they'll get a steak and say, this is the best steak I've ever had.
Yeah,
They'll go there and get fried chicken and say, this is the best fried chicken I've ever had. Yeah. I mean, it's really just, that's my favorite restaurant without a doubt. I also love that it's let us entertain you. I'm a big fan of getting points and rewards So oftentimes I can go there with at least some gift certificates and points saved up. But the Alaskan king crab legs at Joe's, and it's specifically at Joe's because I've had them elsewhere, and Joe's is the best. And that Alaskan king crab leg is the best thing that I've ever put in my mouth, no doubt.
Awesome. And then tourist attraction.
But you know what? That's such a great question because Chicago has so many things, wonderful things to do. And really, it was during COVID where my family started exploring parts of Chicago that we hadn't been to. And we brought up this saying that says, Chicago, who knew? There's so much to do, so many opportunities. But here's something I'm going to throw out there that my wife found out about. We went to last summer. It was the all-black rodeo on the South Shore Cultural Center of Chicago. You're in this beautiful venue on the South Shore on the lake. There's a little rodeo rink, and my family and I were the only white people there. We were welcomed so warmly. People were so friendly. The participants in the rodeo would come up to us. Like everyone just wanted to make us feel really welcome. And it just made me realize, boy, I really hope we're doing the same to people that are different than ourselves, you know, and because we went there and it was an incredible experience. We just did something that was unique that my family doesn't always do, doesn't often do. We got to see a rodeo with these, African-American rodeo folks that were just incredible.
Yeah.
And plus the venue, we're right on the shoreline. The shoreline of Chicago is just so beautiful to see. If you go south or north, you're along the lake. It's just like such a beautiful setting. Then you can see the city in the distance. So that all black rodeo on the South Shore Cultural Center was really a neat kind of diamond in the rough that we found.
Nice. That's awesome. I'm going to have to check that out. Bill, how do people get a hold of you if they want to connect?
Well, you've got this real cool scrolling thing at the bottom, emailing me, bill@tagcommercialbroker.com. We're always excited to talk real estate. We're never going to bring it up, but if anyone wants to ask me, I love talking real estate, whether it's brokerage, and more transactional discussion or investment conversation. I just enjoy talking real estate. I think that's one of the reasons why you and I have connected so well. So I'm grateful for the connection to you as well, Mike.
Thanks for being here today. I appreciate it. I'm going to move you to the back room, say goodbye, hang out with me for a couple of minutes.
You got it, Mike. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. That was Thursday Morning Live this week, and my guest, Bill Himmelstein, and he would be really glad that I said his name right again. But real estate, office real estate, medical space, whatever you're looking for, give him a call. I think I could have talked to Bill for hours today because we do have such a connection around real estate in that space. So, hey, if you are somebody who's here every Thursday, somebody who'd be a great guest, send me an email, throw your hat in the ring. Any Chicago area, local entrepreneur, business owner, restaurant owner, somebody in real estate, that's fine. But I'd love to have you on the show and talk, talk markets, talk business, talk shop. So remember the Multifamily Summit coming up October 20th through the 22nd. Go to multifamily22.com, get registered.